the Camp Fire was one of the most devastating fires in the U.S., I think.
Yeah, killed 82 people, burned over 13,000 structures.
Yeah.
Our house caught on fire.
Yeah. I think actually every house that we did on HGTV was gone.
Oh, my goodness.
This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and
Cameron Cathcart.
Cameron Cathcart, not Cam.
Cam Cathcart.
I mean, you can do whatever
Let's
you
go
want.
Cam. I don't want to switch it up.
Yeah, whatever. You
Cam
can do whatever you
Cathcart.
want. What was the word? Trajectory.
Trajection.
Trajection. You made up a new word today.
Trajectory and direction combined. It made sense in my head.
Yeah, it reminds me of strategery. Remember that word from George Bush back in the day? Anyway, hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. Today, dude, we just got finished recording it. We always do these intros right afterwards. Mm-hmm. This was a phenomenal interview with two just rock star real estate investors who happen to be married.
They are. And they taught us how you can build a business and still love your spouse.
Yeah, like how do you do it together? And how do you get your spouse on board if they're not on board? How do you be happy together? I thought that was super solid. We talked about natural disasters like massive fires that burned down 13,000 homes, including every single flip they did for a year, something like that.
Not only that, but how it ruined their HGTV show.
Yeah, they had an HGTV show, and you're going to hear all about that and more. Today's show is great, so I'm excited for you guys to hear it. Now, before we get into that, we're going to do a new little segment of the show just to get to know Cam and I a little bit better. We're calling it just the weekly win. So, Cam, what's your win this week?
My win this week is somebody told me about a great book series.
Was this somebody me?
It was. And it's a sci-fi fiction book. And I haven't read fiction books for a while. It's called Red Rising. And I spent all week reading and all day Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. Good. Yeah, so there's 3 books, and I'm pretty much done with the first 2, and I think they're both probably 400-page books.
Yeah, they're huge books.
So I'm reading a lot. I'm not doing anything else. So.
Red Rising is the single best fiction story I've ever read.
Mm-hmm. It's Hunger Games,
Yep.
Harry Potter even, with like the houses. Yep. It's
and Ender's Game with the sci-fi piece. With
Divergent.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's so good.
Lord of the Rings, maybe? No.
Yeah, Gladiator, a little bit of Gladiator in there, a little bit of Braveheart. It's all wrapped in.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. All right, well, that's a good win.
What is your win of the week?
My win of the week. It's funny, I even thought of this idea of doing the weekly wins, and I didn't think about my own win. My win of the week is last week. It's the last week thing, but I found it out this week. Last week, for the week, I had 105% on my goals, like my habit tracking. So for the Better Life Tribe, I track my habits. It's one thing we all do in the tribe. Track my habits, I got 105%, which never happens, but I had a few things that I only had to do like 4 times in the week, and I did them like 6 times. And so therefore, I got over 100%. Never done that before. It was a good week. Because the whole idea, right, is that if you get closer to getting 100% of your habits, and the habits line up with your goals for the quarter, and goals for the quarter line up to the goals for the year, and the year lines up to your vision for your life is in alignment. So I feel pretty aligned right now.
Dude, I love it. Congrats.
Thanks, man. I'm excited. Well, enough about us. Let's get to today's show with Chenoa and David Rivera. Chenoa, David, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Dude, I'm so glad you guys were here in Maui. We ran into Chenoa here at the coffee shop. And, it's a funny story. I told you this, but I saw her, and I was like, man, that looks like Chenoa. And I was like, it couldn't be. But we've hung out a couple times, and I was like, it looks just like her. And I didn't say anything because I don't want to be weird. Anyway, and then you didn't say anything because you didn't want to be weird.
I don't want to bother you guys.
Well, so I'm sitting in line for like 10 minutes, and we're just like in line, you by each other. Anyway, finally you walked up, so thank you. And then I felt stupid for not saying anything first. So hi.
Hi.
So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's funny that he says that because we were just at the Better Life Tribe Summit, and when we ran into you, you said, hey, when you come to Kihei, let's cold plunge.
Yeah.
So
and then I was like,
I got it. Is that what we're doing after today's show?
I would love to.
Dude, I got a cold plunge. It's a little dirty.
Because you can't cold plunge in Maui. The water's too warm.
I know, that's so true. It's like lukewarm plunging in the ocean. All right, so I know you guys as active, successful real estate investors. I think 160 some units, doors, flipped over 300 houses, stars of an HGTV show that went down in flames. Can I say that?
Yes.
You definitely can.
That's a weird.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll explain that later. So that's who I know you as, and that's how people know you as. But take us way back. That's who you are today. So who was Chenoa and David?
Gosh, way back. Well, I mean, do I start at the very beginning of my?
It's a very good place to start.
Okay. Well, I had my first daughter when I was 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I graduated high school early, took my GED, and just was like, I don't want to go to a continue education school. And I was like, I'll go to college and graduated there early, and so I started young, bought my first house when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
My mom's like, you can't raise babies in an apartment, you got to buy a house. And so we did. And back then, you could pretty much say stated income, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
easier to get one in, so I kind of
Where was
lucked
that at?
out. That was in Chico.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Okay.
Chico, California. And then lived there a few years, sold it, made $80,000. Not a bad first flip,
not
right?
at all.
And then I actually, I'm going to age myself right now, but do you remember Carlton Sheets?
Oh, yeah.
Saw him on some probably late night show. Went to one of his like little seminar thing. Wanted to get into it, but at the time we just didn't do it. Was waiting for the right man.
Yeah.
Got him.
For the right partner. For the right
Definitely
partner.
got him.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. That's cool. Carlton
Yeah.
Sheets. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Over on Bigger Pockets when I was there, probably interviewed 500 people, and I bet at least 50 people said Carlton Sheets was like one of their like beginning. And most of them never actually took the class or whatever. It was just him being on TV.
Yes.
Made us all realize like,
Yeah.
oh, there's real estate. And
Same principles.
yeah.
Right?
Of course, I'm only
Yeah.
29, so I don't know anything
For
about
sure.
that. But no, but for me, it was actually. Flip that house and flip this house. Remember Armando Montalongo back in the
Yes,
day?
yes.
Right? He was in
Yes.
California flipping, then he went to Texas and flipped. Anyway,
Yeah.
one of those shows, Flip This House or That House. And those were like super popular. That's how I got into it. It was like, oh, you
Yeah.
can flip houses. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
HGTV had actually, I think that was A&E, but real estate TV
yeah.
made a big impact on me. So we'll get to your guys' story with TV. I would love to hear that story. But first, what about you, David?
So I'm from Maui, Hawaii.
You.
I was born and raised in Wailuku, and I just, growing up here, I didn't always go down the right path, but I had a lot of great coaches through sports, through growing up here that really helped me get on the right path. And they saw my talent in athletics, and they told me, go to the mainland and play sports. And in the mainland in sports, I got my degree at Chico State, and at Chico State's where I met Chenoa.
Yes.
Really?
And
Were you going to school there at the time? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Do
that's
you
what
remember the pickup line you used? Did you use one? Was there like a thing?
we just connected eyes, and then it was.
It was
just
honestly like that. Like he was
Yeah.
walking up the stairs and he turned back and he was gonna go leave with his friends and I was standing behind and we just kind of like locked eyes and
Yeah. And then that was it.
It was
Like
all she wrote. Yeah.
yeah. I had a checkbook of questions for you, and you had some also for me, but it just clicked. You just know, like, when you find the right person,
Yeah.
and it just clicked right away. And so I met Chenoa in college, and then I went on. I got my degree in special events and tourism. Being from Maui, I was going to move back here, work in the hotel industry, and I just like you, Brandon. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I had been working at a casino in Northern California, and after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, it just inspired me. It inspired me to I want to do something different with my life. Like, this isn't my calling. Like, this isn't where I'm not maxing out my potential in what I'm doing with my degree. I need to do something bigger. So after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it just inspired me. And then I started to just live and breathe real estate. I started to read more real estate books. I started to tell everybody about real estate. And next thing I know, like Chenoa's uncle, people that I knew through sports, they all just started to go, hey, I want to invest with you in real estate. You sound so passionate about it.
Yeah.
You sound like you know what you're doing. And then from there, I just started like doing more research, started doing stuff locally. I started looking at what all the local flippers were doing with their flips. I started basically mimicking what they were doing, like finding out who they were raising capital from, what they were doing there locally that made them successful. And then basically I got all these people that were inspired or wanted to do business with me, and I had them bring the capital to me, and then I was able to go find the properties myself, and then I had all these partners. And then our business just started to go from there.
And you started flipping houses? Was that the first?
Yes, we started flipping houses. And then we also started to buy rentals slowly. Not as much. We would do more flips, and then every year we'd buy 1 or 2 single-family homes.
Yeah.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So when you first got into it, you didn't have a lot of, obviously, experience in this.
Right.
Was it pretty smooth sailing in the beginning? Did you have any, did you lose money in the beginning? Like, what was that like in the very early stages of flipping houses?
In the very early stages, it's like you're learning on the job. So like everything from the contractors to the holding time with the house, just everything you're learning right there on the job. But I had partnered with Chenoa's uncle because he was a plumbing contractor. And with plumbing contractors, with Scott, he had a lot of experience with other contractors.
Yeah.
So I was able to use his money, but he also helped me in managing the job because that wasn't my expertise. But through the books, you know, a lot of the books were telling me you need to find someone that has knowledge in that world of contractors and all that. So he helped me manage a lot of the contractors, all the subs when we were doing our first flip. But we made some mistakes.
No.
Right.
No one does that.
Right. So we definitely made some mistakes, and
we had to work on our own projects for a while. You know, like we'll do the deck. We'll save a couple $1,000.
Power wash the
yeah,
deck.
yeah,
or something
exactly,
like that.
exactly.
Things that we'll paint a few things.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
you know,
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
yeah.
So when you partnered with, it was your uncle,
Yes.
correct? What did that look like? Because I know a lot of people that are probably listening, they're wanting to get into real estate. And how did you guys structure that partnership? Was he just a private money lender on that, or did you guys partner on the profit as well? How did that work?
Yeah, so we basically went 50-50 partners. I brought in the deal, and then he came in with the capital for the deal.
Because he was still running a business, and so we had the time, so to speak, to really find the deals and to start scouring through the MLS. And
Which is my favorite way to invest. Like I still do that today.
Yeah.
Right? With Open Door
Yeah.
Capital, we partner with people who have more money than time.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I have more time and capability than money, and so we just partner together. It still works at every level, from beginner to advanced.
100%.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
totally agree.
And we bought our first house together as a foreclosure, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a funny story. And we had like no money, and we put $10,000 on the line because it was a bank-owned property. And we sat in bed one night, and we're like, we could take our kids to Europe, and we could have a really fun family vacation. And it was a non-refundable $10,000 deposit, and then we just made it happen. And it was it's still the home that we like love and live in right now. And it's
that's awesome.
beautiful. It has.
I mean,
canyon
but
side.
she's not so it was a foreclosure, and it was, I mean, it literally had no landscaping, no flooring, no appliances. And it was, we literally, when we moved in that first day, we literally looked at each other and we said, we're going to make it through this. We're going to do this. Like, we don't
We
care.
were
Like, one day
camping
we're
in
going
this
to.
like 4,000
Yeah.
square foot home that we're like,
It
we'll
literally
grow
was.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely was camping in there for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. And we, in fact, at the end, we had to go to Habitat for Humanity, purchase a stove and a range hood. And we shouldn't do this, but we did. And put it in there so that we could get an appraisal so it would appraise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Because you can't.
Yeah,
Because
the
the
kitchen
guy
and
that
stuff.
foreclosed, he took the stove with him.
Yeah.
And you can't get a loan. It's not habitable if you don't have a stove.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've
we went
done-
down
I've
and
done
grabbed
that
Yeah.
too.
So it was this like beautiful kitchen area with this like white
Yeah.
junky like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have taken a picture of it. Yeah. But,
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so David, you got into real estate that you got bit first by the bug. It sounds
Yes.
like.
Yep.
When did the transition? Like, when did she get infected with the real estate bug? Was that right away, or did it take a while?
I think because I was so obsessed with real estate that it just kind of grew on her too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I said, babe, you should get your real estate license. And like
further down, I did that. Yes.
yeah, like let's grow this. Like it's good if you have your real estate license. And then basically we just went from there.
Yeah. I feel like I got pretty on board pretty quick.
Yeah.
He was like, we're gonna do this. You're not gonna have to work really hard in life, or just like like I'm gonna take care of you kind of thing.
You threw in that line.
Still do it. No, I'm kidding. No, but I don't know. I had already bought a house too, so I feel like the real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like when you see you can make $70,000 on a profit.
Yeah,
the
you might as
house.
well.
It's like, hey. And I come from the entrepreneurial spirit. I feel like I'm born with that. Like I'm a visionary. He's the one that's the executor.
I'm the executor, but she's definitely the driver. She goes for the moon.
That's cool.
I try to
have to
make the
start
spaceship to get there.
So being married and doing this together, what does your guys' like roles look like? I'm always fascinated by this because my wife and we run our business together.
Yeah.
So what does that look like day to day?
Well, I would say that we analyze, like he does a lot more of the finding the properties and scoping them out, and then we analyze them together. We talk it over. It sounds like it's like this. What do you think? What's your
absolutely.
ideas? I think initially I started off with like the paint colors and the making it beautiful again. And that
Yeah,
kind of
but I mean,
stuff.
you have a lot of, it's like sometimes she'll see something like in a neighborhood and go, you know what, we should invest in this neighborhood. And then sometimes if I see the right price, I might overlook the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And she'll go, no. Even if we flip this, this is not the area we want to buy in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you definitely
yeah.
see a lot of things sometimes
We
that I don't
balance
see.
out each other in that sense. But I would say it's pretty 50-50.
Yeah, it definitely
I don't know.
is.
I mean,
Yep.
you know, for the most part.
What advice do you have for people? It's a two-part question. What advice do you have for people who, A, their spouse is not getting infected with the bug, right?
Yeah,
Like one spouse is like, we're going all in real estate, it's so great. And the other one's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So that first, and then the second part of that question is, what about just advice in general for couples who are working together or trying to? What would you suggest? So let's start with the couples who one just doesn't get it.
I mean, I would say if your spouse isn't into it, then I mean the thing is people have jobs all day long, right? And one's a doctor, but you don't have to have your spouse doesn't have to be a doctor. So, you know, invite them into your world, you know, so that they can help support you where they can, but then do it like if you were a doctor or a separate business or running a company for anything else. I would just keep it separate, and then obviously you want your support of your spouse to help you and talk it over about the good things, the bad things, and that kind of stuff. And then over time, I think that they'll grow into it, realizing what the potential and upside could be.
Yeah.
With creating the balance of what we all are kind of after.
That's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, I think
totally
people
agree.
I think people use my spouse isn't on board as an excuse not to take action.
Right, because in every
Yeah.
other job or profession that you are,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not counselors together, we're
Yeah.
not school teachers together.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
That's just
right.
part of life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a great point. All right, what about just working together in general? What could you offer as advice to people for that?
I think like the roles, like knowing like exactly like I find the deals, analyze them, and then basically Chenoa comes in and she'll look at it and she'll look at the neighborhoods, she'll look at the comps. It's just knowing the roles up front. So I know what I have to do and she knows what she has to do. And then, but we always, you know, check on each other regardless of the roles. But I think that's always huge to know the roles and then always check on each other because we're business partners. So, and I just think that at the end of the day, having your wife as a business partner is a great secret weapon to have, and vice versa. If you have a husband as a secret, you know, it's just a good thing to have your spouse as a partner. I feel like you can conquer more, you can do more, and like I said, she sees things sometimes that I don't see.
And what do you like bring to the table? You know, like what are you good at? What are you not good at? Like if you hate managing people, probably we'd switch it around, or like where can I step in?
Right.
Or do we need to hire somebody to help step in to make this easier?
You know, one other thing I tend to, I don't know, counsel is maybe the wrong word, but I try to counsel couples on when they have that problem of like one doesn't want to invest and one does, or they can't work together, is generally if one spouse doesn't trust the other one is going to do the job right, it means you've probably let them down in some other area of your life. Like in the little thing, right? You said you're going to take the trash out and you didn't take the trash out. Or you said you're going to watch the kids that night and then you went out with your buddies instead. It's like little things like that have eroded trust in your relationship.
Yes.
So then when you say something like, let's go flip a house together, you know, it's like, or you know, you do this role, you do this role. And either way, you're going to have this mess instead of a mesh, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so just being integrable, is that a word?
Yeah.
In all areas of your marriage and relationship, like, yeah, it makes such a drastic difference.
I totally agree. I mean, I think with every relationship, work on the little things to build that trust so that partner is comfortable with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, if you work on the little things, eventually down the road, there'll be big things that create success for your couple.
So what makes your marriage work? It's a broad question, but what makes it work so well?
I think that we're intentional with what we do and how we do it. So we communicate on a daily basis. We are supportive of each other. Like I know he has my back 100%, vice versa. I have his back 100%. And we talk over how to be better, how to get better. We just kind of like live this life of.
And we hold each other
intentionality.
accountable. We hold each other accountable. Like if if I'm not doing my role and doing what I'm supposed to do, she's going to hold me accountable. And same thing with her. If she has a down week, then it's my job to pick her up. I mean, she's my business partner.
Yeah.
And my partner and my family partner and everything. So to answer your question, that's I think the number one thing.
How do you guys separate work from your marriage?
We don't.
You don't? You don't? Okay.
Come on, let's be honest.
Do you guys have boundaries or rules around that? Or
We do. I would say in the beginning, when we were first getting into real estate, it was a little messier, and it consumed us. And like I said, David was so passionate about it, like people wouldn't even want to come over and hang out with him because like he only talks about real estate. Like, I don't like real estate. You know? The family were like, okay, you and the kids can come.
Like, wow, your sister's not coming to Thanksgiving no more?
Now they're like, how can I pull out my 401k and invest with you guys?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think this, just as you grow and get older and you see how like short life is, I think that you just kind of like, it puts it into perspective that like our family, what are we doing real estate for? Like, we don't want that to be our primary focus, because life isn't enjoyed by like, you know, signing for a house or that. It's like the family, the quality time, the 100%. Memories that we're making. Mm-hmm. It's like the little things with that. So trying to keep our head focused on that.
Yeah. How many kids do you have now?
Well, I have 2 older daughters,
okay.
and then we have 2 together,
okay.
7 and a 10-year-old. Yeah.
All right. So let's shift from the relationship question, and what has worked in your parenting? What have you found you've had a lot of success with? Where have you struggled and improved?
I think for me, so I coach my son's soccer team. We're playing in the State Cup Championship in Northern California this weekend on Sunday.
Are you going to win?
We're going to win.
Okay.
We're going to win.
Confidence.
I think for me, as I mentioned earlier, like I had 2 great coaches growing up that like really taught me really good values. They taught me how to be a good person and how those little things can go such a long way in life. And so I take that and I put that in my kids when I coach them through sports. Mm-hmm. And I see it in my son all the time, because sometimes I think to myself, I'm going, gosh, am I doing the best job I can possibly do? I'm trying to do everything that I learned in my early childhood. But then when our teacher comes home and they said, your son got an award for, you know, being the most inspirational, or what was that award he got recently that we were there? It was like the stand-up award for like, but anyways, those things are the things that I learned growing up. And so for our kids, I'm always instilling that into them all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think I'm just obsessed with getting better every day. Like, how do I get better? What am I feeding myself, my mindset? How can I be a better parent each day? And I think we talk about it. Like, are we doing a good job?
Right.
How's our relationship? You know, we are very, I think, like I said earlier, intentional about what we're doing and the relationship we have with our children. And so even for my older daughters, we schedule like dinners on Mondays, and they come over as a family. So I know I'm getting that time in. And then with our kids, we try to like rotate putting who we put to bed each night. So we switch over and do that.
Yep.
And then just like I stay accountable for it. You know, how many dinners we have at the dinner table, and have the conversations with them, and just being intentional.
Absolutely.
I love the dinners at the dinner table. I remember reading some sort of stat that kids that have dinner at the dinner table, like they're way less likely to get divorced. They're way less likely to end up in prison. They're more likely to graduate. Just dinners at the dinner table. So important.
It's one of the biggest predictors of success.
Yeah.
My wife actually, when we were at the Better Life Summit in December, that was one of the goals she set for the Q1 was she wanted 40 dinners at the dinner table with candlelit dinners.
Yeah.
And so we've been tracking every week. It's like, basically 4 a week roughly.
Yeah.
So we track them. She has in the Better Life, journal for tracking. She tracks it all, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're slightly behind pace, so we got to now do like 5 a week for the rest of the quarter. But that's the value of tracking, right? Because now you're like, I have a goal. But even if you don't
hit the goal,
you still become a better person.
Yeah, you've done way more, and then the
Yeah.
kids see that you're focused on that, and it's like those little things that they'll remember.
Yeah, the candle thing is really fun. Actually, I highly recommend that. I heard that from Instagram or TikTok reel or whatever, where it just said light a candle because it gives your kids something to kind of focus on, and it totally works. Like we have little kids, they just like there's something on the table, and it just kind of moves like they move, just like all over. So the candle's been great. And then
we'll have to try that one.
There's like those little games of like whoever eats their food first gets to blow out the candles, and it's always such a big thing. Like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, it's just like they really care about blowing the candles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, whoever eats the broccoli gets to blow out the candles, and it totally works. So, very cool. All right, so I have a large question here. How did you scale to 300 flips? I mean, as a guy who's flipped 20, my entire life, and that was hell for a decade. Because I was so involved. How did you scale? What did that look like to scale to the point where you're doing so many flips?
So, for me, the biggest thing was raising capital and meeting more people that had capital. And once I found that, then it was, okay, I need to find more contractors. And then once I found more contractors, I needed to find more subcontractors. And then I needed to network with more people that were finding deals in the areas that I was targeting. And so from there, once I had all that in place, then it was just managing everything and then getting a property manager to basically manage everything going on. And that's how we basically did it.
Yeah, creating systems and then really going down to the basics and keeping it super simple. So like, color palettes, even like little things or
We were doing
A,
exactly.
B, C, D, E. This house is E. This is C.
Oh, wow,
this is,
Yep.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
systems like that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the contractor, how you find contractors.
Sure.
Before I do want to bring in this week's show sponsor and ad. But one thing we do on the show a little different is 100% of the ad revenue for every show goes towards a charity of the guest choosing. So is there a certain charity that you guys, or your heart, moves toward and that we can give some money to?
Being from Maui and the Lahaina fire, it's like very emotional, heavy to my heart. So I would love for it to go to a Lahaina charity.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that fire was nuts, and
Yeah.
I know you guys got experience with that too. So we'll talk about that
Yes.
here after the break as well. Well, if you own a rental property and you have, isn't that a good transition? Right there? If you own a rental property and you have equity in that property because you've owned it for a number of years, there's a good chance you could get a higher return by either refinancing or selling that property. But how do you know? You run what's called a return on equity calculation. And so Open Door Capital, which is the company I founded, we buy a lot of big properties, but we're just giving away a free return on equity calculator. So if you want to get it, it's really easy. Just go to abetterlife.com/ROE. That's return on equity. So abetterlife.com/ROE, and you can get the return on equity calculator and see if you can move your money into something that can make you more. All right, let's first talk about the contractor thing. That is one of the most difficult things in scaling for anybody. Right? Like, how do you just find them? So what has worked for you, and what lessons have you learned in that?
We stalked them.
Stood outside their bedroom window and knocked until they...
A lot of times in life, it's just asking the question. So we called a lot of the real estate agents in our town and we asked them, hey, who are you using? Like, when you guys have inspections, who are you using to do the work? And so once we found that out, we met with the contractors. And then basically from there, we asked them, hey, can we see houses that you've done before? Can we see any of the projects that you've done? And then from there, we just started to click with them really easily, and then we started using them on our projects. And so that's basically how we did it. It was literally asking the agents who they're using for inspections and then using those contractors on our projects. Yep.
Do you still use that first guy to this day?
Yes, I
You
do.
Love it.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he's amazing.
Yeah. Our contractors are like our family.
Really?
Like when you own a business
that.
or you're working for a business, like you become so close. Like they know us. They don't have to ask questions about like how we want things done. They just know our style now.
That's awesome.
That's one of the good things. Like when you've been doing it so much, they already know. Like if Chenoa goes, I want this house green, they know the tile, they know the cabinets.
They know the whole.
Boom.
Can I ask this? I'm sure you have something too.
go ahead.
I'm just, this is something I struggle with and always have with contractors is once I become friends with them and like we start doing a lot of deals, I feel like they just start raising their price because they're like, oh, he's not going to care. And so, but then I feel it's kind of true. Like I don't want to like rock the boat. So all of a sudden they just get more and more expensive. Have you found that? Have you not found that? Like how do you prevent that?
A few that we first started out with, yes. But for the most part, the ones that are still with us, no. And the reason for that is because we're so easygoing and they understand that. And they've always told me this. They go, I don't want to ever go and remodel a custom home or build a custom home because it is so stressful to go and do that for a client.
Yeah.
With you guys are easygoing. This is easy. I can do this all day. As long as I'm having a steady paycheck, this is great.
Yeah, they're thankful, I think. And I think it's just how you treat people, right? I mean, like you find the right employee, there's a bazillion of them. It's like finding that needle in a haystack a little bit too with a contractor who's genuinely a good person also who can lay down and sleep at night and know they did the job well done and that we're same way. We'll like always,
I agree
do
with
our
that.
part.
I've had them come to me and go, hey, like I know you recommended me for this, but I can't do it. Like I only do stuff for you guys.
That's cool. I tell all of my friends or just anybody. So we flip in St. Louis, and I'm willing to share everything. Like my wholesalers, my real estate agents, any of my calculators, how I analyze deals. but if you ask me to share my contractor, I'm going to fight you. Like, I'm going to fight you, and you're not going to get it.
Let me call your wife.
Exactly. So we love our contractors, and like you said, it's all about just taking care of them. We show up with Modelo's on day one and drop it off, and they might be drinking on the job. I don't know, but they like us, and they like us, and we like them, and keeping them busy too. Obviously, you guys have done 300 plus flips, and kept them busy. So I love that.
Yeah, no, definitely keeping them happy.
We've had to pivot, a little bit, and now we have switched into more multifamily, small multifamily.
Multifamily and new builds.
Yeah, new builds. Yeah. And luckily, right before interest rates, went back up, we actually were like, we got to buy and hold, and then we just went on a frenzy. So.
All right, well, let's talk about that. What does that look like to buy and hold for you? Like what are you buying and where?
So a lot of the buy and hold stuff we're doing, a lot of burrs in Northern California. Okay. We're like an hour and 45 minutes north of Sacramento, and we're kind of a unique area. Like the average house in this one particular area, Oroville, California, it's like high 200,000s, which is like unheard of for California, right?
It's crazy.
And then Chico, the nearest biggest town to that. It's gone up over the years, and now it's like 400-something thousand. But anyways, the last 2 years, we've bought so many single-family homes that we were able to burr in California. And then after we started doing a single-family, we said, okay, like the same amount of work that I'm putting in to do this one property, why don't I go buy an 8-plex or a 12-plex? Because the same amount of time and energy that I'm using to analyze this one single-family, I could do that for a multifamily. So then we started buying an 8-plex, then we bought a 12-plex, then we bought a 17-plex. And then I said, well, this is just like I said, this single family thing. It's same thing, same amount of time. And then I started to network with more people, and then we decided to go out of state because it was getting really hard to invest in multifamily in California, as a lot of people know. And so then we networked, found another partner, and then we started investing in Birmingham, Alabama, and buying multifamily out there. So,
and then we came across a wholesaler that was local but found a deal in Chicago.
Okay.
So we got on the plane in Maui weather, Northern California winters are a little different than Chicago.
Show up in Chicago in January.
Yes, and it just happened to be like one of the most like cold fronts that they had. It was like negative something, and our California winter clothes, did not keep us warm. But
But you bought it?
We bought it. We definitely bought it. We found a great property manager, which
is key. Property management.
How do you find a good property manager?
The wholesaler that brought us the deal was working with the property manager, and the property manager. That's when we said, okay, we need to fly. Let's meet her in person. Like, let's interview her. Let's ask her all these questions. And then when we sat down with her, she was just on it. Like, she was every single thing from like the electrical bills to the tenants. Like, she knew every single thing. I was like, you're the best ever. I'm like, can I fly you to California? Like, so that made it so comfortable for us to invest out of state, and that's why we did it.
Yeah.
And how big was that one in Chicago?
That was a 12-plex in Chicago.
12-plex, cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Are you raising money for all these, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, when I first started out, I did a lot of joint ventures, but then it pulled me in so many different directions because I had to manage, I had to always report to all my different joint venture partners. And so that got really stressful for me. And so I had heard that, I just went to the title company that we did so many deals through that we used for everything. And I said, who are your private money lenders here? Like, who are the guys that are lending money? Yeah. And they gave me the number of the number one guy in our local town that they said, he is the big fish. He's the one you want. Took him to lunch. We hit it off. And then that was it. Like, he goes, we're going to cover all your deals. Let's try one. If you can pay me back in a year, then I'll keep funding your deals. And from that day on, we eliminated, we still have one or two joint ventures, but for the most part, he is my capital partner for everything I do. He doesn't even need to see the property. He still goes on the deed of trust, but it's all about us. They trust us. They believe in us.
They allowed us to buy a bagel shop, actually.
Really? Bagel shop? It's like, hey, we trust you. And then how do you pay him back? Is it like on those properties, or is it refinancing, or is he part of the deal?
Yeah, either if we're selling it on flip or through the refinance. That's how we pay him back.
Is he paying 100? I mean, like he's funding the entire thing or just the down payment part?
He's
He
funding the
started
entire
the-
thing
Yeah.
and the remodel.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
So-
started with just the purchase.
Just the purchase.
And then we finally got
Yeah.
to do like,
Yeah.
just over time, build that trust.
And that's exactly what it is, right? You build trust over time with people.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, "Well, how do I get 100% financing on a property?" I'm like, "You don't the first time." Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You
or
don't.
you maybe
Yeah.
split it 50-50 with
Right.
someone the first time.
Exactly.
Or maybe, and then you work into trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's very few people that I would trust with like just giving them money, but there are a few in my life that I'd be like, if they ask me. In fact, one of my buddies, Gene, I financed the deal for them, and then I ended up refinancing it with them. I'm still on the loan.
Yeah.
I have a little percentage in the deal now. I don't really care. I looked at the property one time
Yeah.
ever. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm not investing in the deal. I'm investing in Gene.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I trust that dude.
beautiful
It's a
house,
beautiful
too.
house.
So
Dude, I wish I would have bought that house actually.
By the way, I need 500,000.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Just 24%.
Money should never be the issue. though,
First time,
right?
yeah.
I think money's I think that should never be an issue that stops
Yeah.
you from getting into real estate.
100% agreed. It's like if you have a good enough deal, you can usually figure out a way to get the money, even if
And-
you had to partner with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the JV stuff
Absolutely.
works. It's expensive, but it
Yeah.
works.
It does.
Yeah.
I kind of have a little business idea around that.
Oh,
What's your business idea?
want to share right here?
Not yet.
it's
It's brewing. In 5
can't
years.
bring that up.
Okay.
In 5
All right.
years.
So what's for your? You don't have to tell us your guys, but like,
Yeah.
what is a good interest rate that you think that people should negotiate for?
So with my guy, it's 10% interest only, but there's no points. Like I said, they don't need to see the property. They trust us. It's 10% interest only. It has to be paid back in a year.
in a year,
In a
do you guys
year.
pay monthly on that or whenever you?
It depends. If it's a flip, no. If it's multifamily that's cash flowing, we pay them monthly. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. As a real estate investor, I'm gonna say something kind of weird here, but as a real estate investor, like 10% always just seemed too small. Like, I can get more than that in rental property, right? Now I have a good chunk of money sitting in a bank account. Like right now, I have a good chunk of money sitting there, and I'm getting like 3% on it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all of a sudden now to somebody who has now, I'm like I have a good amount of cash. I'm
Yeah.
like 10% sounds amazing. Could
Right.
it be 3 times more than I'm getting
Yeah.
right
Yes.
now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how we oftentimes as investors, when we put our we put our mindset into somebody else's thing, like, they would never lend on that because 10% is amazing to a person who's
Yeah.
used to 5 in the
Yeah.
stock market or
Yes.
7.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good reminder for people not to get stuck on what you think is right or what you think is
Exactly.
fair and what normal is.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, because 10%
Yeah.
could be great.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have 100 DMs.
I know. Well, I'm keeping my what do they call it? Powder dry? Is that the phrase? I'm getting, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm
Sitting on some
I'm
powder.
sitting on some cash.
Sitting
I
on
think
some
there's some
cash,
things
yeah.
coming this year. I'm excited for the deals to come in. So
Yeah.
I think they're coming. So
I agree.
They're coming.
But in the meantime, it's just sitting there earning almost nothing. And I'm like, I think maybe I'm going to transition to there's a 5% treasury bond right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll
Yeah.
do that for a little while. But
Yeah.
There you go.
it's a hassle to move that. But anyway, bagel shop. What the heck is a bagel? Like an actual bagel shop?
Yeah.
Like, does
So-
that-
This
So-
isn't just any bagel shop. Though.
So the funny story behind that is, so we were, my assistant, he does a lot of cold calling in the Northern California area, and he was able to call this particular investor that had 21 doors of multifamily, and after we started to get to know him and created a relationship, I was like, wow, this really pencils. Like, we should buy these 21 doors. So after we did that, he goes, hey, well, do you want to buy a bagel shop? And I said, bagel shop? Like, I'm a real estate guy. Like, bagel shop? Like, what do you mean? And so he goes, well, I have this shop. It's been in business for over 40 years. It's a local staple. It's the only bagel shop in town. And he goes, you got to come try a bagel. So
Yeah. Well, it actually happened to be my first daughter's first job. Too.
Oh, really?
So
At
she used
the
to go to
bagel
high
shop.
school, go over there, eat a
the bagel
bagel.
shop.
They are the best. And this guy, it was 2 guys that started it. They rented a room next to the guy that started Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada beer.
Ken
Right,
Grossman,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
And
yep.
so, he was brewing beer in one room. They rented like a room for like $70 a month, and they were sleeping on flour, trying to figure out how to create this. So it was not only was it just a bagel shop, but like I said, it had been in business for over 40 years, and these guys were staples to a community. So, and I think that kind of just goes in line with our personalities and what we want to be about is representing our community and being a part of it. Like, we flip houses. We want someone to feel like they got a good product from us and that they can.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is, as I was saying earlier, sometimes we bring our kids into the bagel shop and we have them work. So they understand, values. They understand like working, and I want them to learn that, you know. So I think that's very important. And with this, like our oldest daughter, she
runs
manages it. She
Yeah,
runs
she
it.
pretty much runs it. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good opportunity for our family, and it was just ironic how the guy had 21 doors, but he also had a bagel shop.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Hanging
Yeah.
out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the bagels are phenomenal. So if you guys ever come to Northern California,
yes,
I'm coming.
yes.
Brooklyn
I'm hungry
Bridge
right now.
Bagels.
Yeah.
We are the only bagel shop, mom and pop bagel shop
Mom
in
and
town.
pop, yeah.
You guys have bagels on us.
Done.
This was great.
So you said you found that though from cold calling.
Yes.
And so you guys have bought a lot of deals in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found those deals?
So many different ways, like so many different avenues. You know, it's funny. Like we've gotten stuff off the auction court steps. We've gotten stuff off the MLS. We've gotten stuff from wholesalers.
Yeah.
We've gotten stuff from family members. You know, we're always about telling everybody what we do, talking about what we do, and when people think real estate in our area, they think us.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Like
awesome.
I know you always said
Yeah.
like start local. Like I mean, obviously you go out of state, but start local, and that's what we did. Like we really honed in on being the biggest real estate local investors local. So when anyone has a rundown house,
Yeah.
let's call David and Chenoa.
Yeah.
We know they can execute. We know they can do this, and so.
How
I just
big- how
bought
big is
one
Chico?
A couple days ago.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Chico's about 100,000 people,
okay.
and then Oroville's about 60,000
Okay.
people.
Cool.
Yeah.
So those are the
awesome.
two areas that we
And
built
there's
in.
deals everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere. We were here in Maui last year. We bought a house.
Well, yeah. So that's
On the
other.
MLS,
Really?
yes.
So that's another
That's
thing. Like, so my brother, as I said, I'm from Maui, and then my brother, he runs a flipping company here on Maui.
Oh, that's
Really?
cool.
And so yeah, so he does flips here, and so we partnered with him here also, and so we do some deals with him here on Maui.
That's very good.
Yeah, we actually have a house like right up the street right now. The house was pretty much burnt down, and
Not in the Lahaina fires. For those
Not
who,
in the
yeah,
Lahaina
for those who
fires.
don't know,
No, no.
Kihei,
Right,
Lahaina,
right.
very different.
It was
places.
an electrical fire, and it was the owner's out of state, and we put in a lowball offer, and they accepted it. And my brother was like, man, this is gonna be a big big job. But anyways, we remodeled it, and we got it under contract, and we're just waiting on one last thing, and it should close in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's amazing.
So I was like,
Yeah.
well, we better find our next one.
Yeah.
Here,
yeah,
while
time
we're
to find
here.
another flip, right?
We
So
found Brandon instead.
I'm way better, all right? I'm way better. We were at Akamai Coffee, getting
Yes.
my cappuccino. It was a great day. Yeah. Okay. So I want to know about the TV show. Let's go there.
Okay.
Where did that even come from? Was that you pursued it, or did they come to you?
So I actually, we were flipping a bunch of houses, and we would watch the HGTV
Yep.
shows just for like maybe inspiration and just kind of see how they do things. And I was like, we do that. So that I came across like a little ad online, and I sent in a family postcard, and I was like, we love to travel, and this is what we do. We're up in Northern California, and didn't think anything of it. And then about 6 months later, I got a random phone call from the production company, and they're like, hey, we're with, Pie Town Production.
Yeah.
We work with HGTV, and I took they asked me a few questions. Are you still doing what you're doing? Is this, and they started interviewing us and asking us more and more questions. Then we had to do like some Zoom interviews.
yeah, and then next thing we know, it's like, hey, we're gonna fly you guys to Hollywood. I'm like, wait, what? What? And then so like they fly us out to Hollywood, and then there's somebody like with our last name waiting at the airport for
Yeah.
us. So we
Yeah.
get in the car, and then we go up to Pie Town Productions, and it's like this. They show us, like they give us a tour of all the productions, all the cameras and everything, and then we go into their meeting room, and then there's like 10 people in there.
Yeah.
And I swear,
the
like
owners and
the owners and everyone's in there, and I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I can't hear what anybody's saying. Like I'm just like, wow, like, and anyways, so they basically said, hey, we liked the Zoom meetings, and
So we had to also go in like during the process and just go to like Home Depot and just film something. I'd like pick up this and be like, wow, this tile is really nice color. What do you think about this? And like just kind of do a little bit of a show stuff.
Yeah,
I
we
guess
had to
could
send
see
them a
how we would
bunch
be
of
on
little
camera.
videos.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of that meeting, they said, hey, well, we really like you guys. We're the same guys that found Tarek and Christina. We feel that you guys would be great on TV. We're going to do a pilot with you guys. And so I said, a pilot? So what does that mean? Because I'm not from the TV world. I don't know what that means. So they go, we're gonna flip one house in Paradise, California. It's going to take 3 to 4 months. You're going to have a full production crew there. And if the pilot once it airs, if the ratings are good, then we'll put you through to a series.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and this actually was at a pivotal moment for us in our real estate world because David was still working at the casino that when he got out of college, and I was doing medical device sales for a while, and so it was like we had to make that leap of faith, like
because for filming you got to film 5 days a week.
Yep.
It's sometimes it's 8 or 9 hours a day, and it's a lot of work. You know, it's a whole nother job.
Yep.
And so I was just like, we just looked at each other and said, we don't have the money now, but we're going to do this. We're going to do
We'll
this.
figure
Like,
it
this
out,
is a golden opportunity
Yeah.
to be on TV with that many viewers. Like, this could completely change our life. Like, let's go all in.
Yeah.
So at that point, I quit my job.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did
We
the
filmed
pilot.
the pilot.
It was hard. It was hard.
Because it's one thing if you're a real estate investor, you know how to find deals, you know how to do real estate, but it's a whole nother thing when a camera's on you and you have to articulate and you have to. I'll tell you, I always say reality TV is harder than scripted TV because scripted TV, you actually get you know what's coming, you plan everything, and then you act out your lines, right? Reality TV, you got to say everything right then and there, and like you have to be on point with what you're saying. And so it was nerve-wracking in the beginning, but we got through it.
Yeah.
And the pilot went great. And what was weird is we waited, I think 8 or 9 months after the pilot aired. And so we thought, oh, the ratings were bad.
Yeah, it was 6 months because we had just had our youngest, and I said, if we do this, like I nursed all my kids, and so I was like, I'm not going to be away from my babies.
Yep.
I made him go to the hospital when I was in medical device with our oldest. So I said, as long as she's 6 months old, like then I'll do it. But I don't want to do it earlier than that. On the 6 months date, almost to the date, it was like the June 19th, and she was born on the 18th of December. So it was like 6 months exactly. They called and said, "Oh, you want to do a series?" They wanted to push it through.
That's awesome.
So the original pilot was called Flipping Paradise, and then they said we're going to rebrand it, and it's going to be called Rustic Rehab. So at that point we were like, yes. And then they're like, well, just so you know, you're going to have to flip 8 houses in 6 months with a full crew and all this, and this is going to be a full-time job, you know? So we were just like, okay, and here's the other thing. Even if you have the houses like that you're investing in, that might not meet their criteria for what they're doing. Like they want, your houses for TV have to be big transformations.
Yep. Yeah.
So that made it really hard. Like I had to really go find houses that were great for TV.
Yeah,
so.
people I think they don't realize that how most flippers operate is pretty boring houses that
Yeah.
have
Yes.
minimal work,
Yes.
same paint, same
Yes.
it'd be super boring
Yeah.
to actually watch
So
a
then
show
I had
of
to
real
like
estate.
find, I had to like do all these
You have
like
to-
really
yeah,
cool
yeah,
stuff. I
yeah.
gotta be a
Yeah.
kind of designer.
I always laugh
Yeah.
when they go to the specialty tile store
Yeah.
to pick out that special tile for that one. I'm like, no one does that.
No, nobody does that. No,
we go to
no.
Home Depot, we get the same tile we use on 8 other houses.
Unless you're flipping a
a
several million
exactly.
dollar property where that's needed.
Exactly,
With
but it
our
just adds way more
hometown.
fun to
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
So it was really challenging for sure. Like
we had to navigate that in the
had to
small
navigate
town.
that and still run our real estate business.
Yep.
And we had to still manage our contractors.
And be
we
parents.
Yeah. So it was a lot of work, but we made it through.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It
Did
was
you guys
definitely
make
a roller coaster ride.
money on those 8 flips? Because you have to, don't you have to over rehab them?
Minimal.
so minimal because
So minimal on those, but then like I thought you meant like as far as getting paid to do that because it's not like you don't get paid
You don't
until
get
you're
paid
like
till-
super
Yeah.
successful 10, 15 years later. Once
yeah.
you we had to cover up all the Home Depot buckets. Everyone knows what an orange bucket is.
Yeah. But the flips made money though. Like, I mean, it was real money.
Yeah. We actually got caught. This is, failure, right? You have to fail if you're not, in order to be successful. We did one house and we get a call. Like, we bought the house at an auction, got a call, and he's like, congratulations, you just acquired a $40,000 lien on the property.
no.
And, I'm ready for my money when you have it, basically.
Yeah,
And we were like, what? This is a joke. We
the
looked
worst
it up.
part is that I went to the auction court steps, got the house for $100,000, and I called her. I'm like, babe, I just picked up a house for $100,000. Like, the comps are $350. Like, we're golden. Like,
This
is it. Then he calls me, and it wasn't $40,000. It was $59,000.
Oh, okay.
He calls me and goes, you also have a second lien on this for $59,000.
Oh,
And the
no.
only reason, because I usually work with the title company, they make sure the title's clear. My title officer, we were filming, and the title officer wasn't, like, I couldn't get a hold of her that day. But I'm like, I gotta get this house for $100,000. Like, that can't be a lien. Like, it'll be all good, right? Sure enough, boom. Sure enough, a lien.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And that was a house that we used in film on HGTV. And then we actually did make a little bit of money, maybe because it was like so nice and it had to be so like custom kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we
That's cool.
squeaked by.
Yeah. But most of the houses, like, we either broke even or we made a little bit of money on them.
Yeah.
But it definitely was challenging because the houses have to look good for TV. So you have to
And
spend
it takes
more money.
longer. So then
Yeah.
your contractors are like, hey, I'm like, I don't want to be on TV,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and like,
That's definitely a challenging
'cause
thing,
you
was
have to
managing the
film.
contractors through the filming.
Yeah.
Because they just want, with a flip game, as we all know, you want to get in and get out.
Yeah.
And with them, they're like, hey, why are we not getting in and getting out? Like,
Yeah.
it's a slow process.
what do you mean I
so-
can't do this today? And I got to like, you know,
Yeah, wait for
Yeah,
the
I
film
never-
crew.
I
You
never
can't.
thought of that.
yeah. So it was definitely really hard, but
Yeah.
a fun experience, you know.
Yeah. So what happened with the show?
Well, it aired on a Tuesday, and then we had the campfire on Thursday.
Yeah, explain for
So-
those people who don't know what happened there.
Oh gosh, the campfire was one of the most devastating fires it was in the U.S. I think.
Yeah, killed
Um,
82 people, burned over 13,000 structures.
Yeah.
We lost 7
six
houses
houses
in the fire.
Yeah.
Our house caught on
Yeah.
fire.
I think actually every house that we did on HGTV was gone.
Oh my god.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize how, you know.
Yeah, it was brutal. But that day, the firefighters they weren't able to fight the fire because it was moving so fast,
Yep.
and so they happened to just be on our street, which was like it was definitely
Yeah.
it is an act of God that they were there and saved our house.
Yeah.
And our anyways, the fire caught our septic tank, plumbing pipes. It burned the clean out line, lifted up it basically lifted up the toilet in our kids' bathroom, and then was burning the drywall and the insulation. And the firefighters ran in through the middle of the door and got in, flushed the toilet, and put the fire out.
Wow.
And
Saved our
so,
house, yeah.
and a lot of our neighbors lost their house
Yeah.
on
And
our
we-
street.
And we didn't find out for a while, and then it said on our security alarm, it said like glass break on every single window. I think it was just the heat like activated the alarm, so we thought for sure our windows were done.
Yep.
The Welcome to Paradise sign was on fire, burning, and that's like was just a few hundred feet away from our
And
house.
we didn't
so
find out that our house made it until
for a
maybe
couple weeks, I think, because there was a police officer that was we had a friend that her
Yeah.
husband was a police officer and,
And when
like
we-
scoped it out.
Exactly. And when we came home, there were black footprints going from the front door to my kid's bathroom. And so originally I thought, oh man, somebody got up here and broke into our house. But it was the fireman's boots that
Yeah.
were going
Yeah.
into the house, and he put out the fire.
Yeah. So then we were just like, it just felt like we started our flipping business, our real estate journey in Paradise where we live. We were meant to like fulfill that still and stay, because we could have moved anywhere, I guess, after that point.
So unfortunately for the show, like all of our local fan base was all like, just like everybody flew out of, everyone got out of there. Like everyone got out of, they either left California or they went down south. And because that fire kept going for like another week or two, and the smoke was so bad. And so it really killed a lot of the viewers and the momentum of our show.
Yeah. And then it was just done because it was a flipping show and there was
Yeah.
no houses to flip, and they wanted something up in the pines where it was like a mountainous scenery, and it
Yeah,
just
they wanted
wasn't
it to
that
be
anymore.
different. Yeah.
Would you guys do it again? Like if they came back and said, let's do another shot of it?
So
Flipping Maui,
Right. Yeah.
We
no.
actually really thought it would have been an amazing opportunity to rebuild Paradise.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want a good, heartfelt story of like people coming home to your hometown after it being, rebuilt,
That, yeah.
giving people houses. I mean, people just were like put through the ringer, and
Yeah.
It definitely
families,
changed
yeah.
everything, like as far as like, because we were doing remodels, and then now that all these houses burned down and after they did the cleanup, and now knowing about fires and how fast they move, we started like exploring like alternative ways to build. And so actually one of the first new builds that we did up in Paradise off of one of the houses that we rebuilt was we used this autoclave aerated concrete, and it was basically designed for fires. Like it could take like severe temperatures and fires, and it wouldn't still burn the house down. And so the first house that we did in Paradise, California was made out of autoclave aerated concrete.
Yeah.
And what's funny is people like start thinking, oh, is it like a brick house or like? But it's not. It's stuccoed on the exterior, and it still looks exactly. You wouldn't be able to tell if a house is stick built or this autoclaved aerated concrete, it's the same thing. The only difference is the walls are made out of the autoclaved aerated concrete.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that should be something that should be addressed at some point in
Yeah.
the future. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
stick-built homes seems a little archaic these days, especially
And
when
it's a
fires.
hard thing because like we tried to transition a lot of our contractors that were doing our remodels into doing new builds with autoclave aerated concrete, but a lot of them were set in their ways of only doing stick built, and they didn't want to do the autoclaved aerated concrete. So we had to actually use a new contractor to do that, to do those types of houses.
What's the expense difference on something like that?
It actually, when it first came out after the fire, it was actually cheaper than stick built.
Wow.
So we were building them for like under $200 a foot in Paradise, but afterwards, as prices and the economy started to change, then everything just skyrocketed up, and now we actually, it's too expensive to do, and so now we've transitioned back to stick built, where we're still doing them under $200 a foot, and that's the only way it makes sense.
Yep.
But the autoclave aerated concrete it's over $200 a foot to do.
Yeah.
So
It's really because the plant is so far, so location-wise, you'd have to invest and put a plant like nearby.
But the energy efficiency of it, I mean, I think there's so many great benefits to it.
There's a lot of great benefits. And I reached out actually to a few people to see. It's something that I think like is in the back of my mind sometimes, with pursuing. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
if my executor jumps on board. It's in the visionary aspect of my brain.
Did you guys pivot your business then after
We
the
had
fires?
to.
Yeah.
We had to.
to.
We kind of were just done, right? I mean, we were flipping in Paradise primarily. Chico, it was more competitive in the Chico area, and so we had to like.
Yeah, because 13,000 houses gone in the area one of the biggest areas that we were targeting. And so we just said, okay, like, let's look at Maui. Like, maybe let's start investing out of state. And now let's transition into new builds. And so that's how we
And just
pivoted.
going to some of the other surrounding areas and communities that we weren't really focusing on at the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Any advice for those people who are? I mean, this is a very specific question, but those of us in Maui, specifically those in Lahaina, like, what have you guys learned from the fire? Just everything from the red tape to just the hassle. Like, what have you learned? What advice do you have for people going through stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's just like you just have to remember that this is like a little segment of your whole entire life, So it's kind of like what works for you individually. Because I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, that are locals are probably going to move out of area just because why would you? The thing is, it gets more costly. Housing prices are super expensive here already, and they just probably can't afford to come back. And why would you not just retire and have a better quality of life and somewhere where you can actually afford to live and retire?
Yeah.
But I just think it's not about like the materialistic stuff or aspects of your home, and as devastating as it was for people, and it is for people, it's really like if you're alive and you can create a home anywhere, whether you create it back here in Lahaina, which I hope they come back and they help them and they're able to rebuild. But I think you can also create a home with your family anywhere else as well.
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, it's very devastating. Having that happen in Paradise with the campfire, and then having it happen with the Lahaina fire. Growing up here, playing a lot of sports in Lahaina, having best friends, uncles that were so close to me, and their places burned down, and so it's to answer your question, the best thing I tell them all is don't sell your lots. Like keep your lots. Like these properties have been in with your family for generations. There's gonna be a lot of help that's gonna come, and I think that if you keep your options open, don't dwell on the negatives. Try to find the positives. Whether it's your faith, whether it's a friend that's always been a positive light to you. Whatever it is, find positivity and dwell on positivity. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, as horrible as natural disaster is and big problems, it does illustrate the goodness in humanity as well. Like
Yes,
you saw
it
that after
does.
the fire. The people just that come in and want to help
it
everywhere.
does.
Like there's just it was a rush. And I'm sure you guys saw it too. It just
Absolutely.
Oh, so many people came in through the Paradise fire. It's just like it's the tedious little things like insurance stuff that you didn't think like, oh, well, what did you have at your house? And it's those little details that you have to think about.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to move this interview on to the next segment, which is called the 3-2-1 pivot. Right. The idea being a pivot, you're going in one direction and something changes the direction of your life a little bit, or maybe a lot. And so we're going to ask you 3 books, 2 people, and 1 quote that have changed your life. So let's start with the books. 3 books that have changed the direction of your life.
I think the biggest one for me in real estate was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I know you've said that before, but it truly it inspired me to go into real estate and just take action, not sit on the sidelines anymore. I can do this. Like I after reading that book, I said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to take action. And yeah, I might fail, and which I did. I had a lot of mistakes and a lot of failures, but I think that was Robert Kiyosaki with that book just hit the nail in the coffin for me, and I love that book.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
What else?
Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More.
Yeah.
You know, just doing a little bit more each day, because it's like those tiny little things that add up to the big things that move the ball forward.
I hate that book at the gym. I think about it. Power of One More.
That's funny.
So another book that really helped me a lot was the Little Red Book of Sales. It was Jeffrey Gitmore. It was one of the first books that I read, and it really taught me how to sell. Yeah. And I knew that if I felt comfortable with people and I knew how to sell them things, that I could raise money. I could do so many different things. But his book, it just taught me all the aspects of sales, and from there I just ran with that when I was first starting out.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. So
wait, hold on. Can I tell a quick story?
Yes,
Did I tell you my Ed Milet story?
No.
So this is a funny story about Ed Milet, or just an interesting one. So at the Better Life Summit, the one in December that we were at, for months ahead of time, in my head it was ingrained. There was 2 men that needed to speak. It was Tim Tebow and Ed Milet, and I don't even know Ed. I've never met him before. I interviewed him on Bigger Pockets a decade ago, but he doesn't know me. I don't really know him. So I'm like, Ed needs to speak. It felt right in my soul. Of all the people in the world, I'm like, Ed needs to speak. And I have friends, multiple friends who are friends with him, and I even had one friend a month before was like, do you want me to just introduce you to Ed? And I'm like, no, I don't know what I'd say. But anyway, and I just kept saying the same thing. I said, I know he needs to be there, but there's no way he's flying from Florida to wherever we had the conference at, Vegas.
Yep.
Private jet, it's gonna be expensive. I can't afford it. There's no money in the conference to afford it. He's not gonna come for free. There's no way I'm getting Ed to Vegas to speak at this thing. Anyway, so we go do the event. Obviously, Tim Tebow speaks. He's great. And then, of course, Ed doesn't speak because Ed's in Florida. So that night, Stetson, who's in charge of getting guests for the podcast and all that, and he's in charge of getting speakers and stuff. He texts me. He's like, just ran into Ed Milet across the street. He was at our hotel.
No.
The same day at the event, and I didn't ask him. He would have. I'm sure he would have come and spoke.
100%.
Yeah.
We're 100% money. Profits go to charity. He would have come and spoke.
Yeah.
And it was my own fear of asking him that made him not come, because I thought he would be going to be in Florida. What are the odds? He's at our hotel. At the event, and Ed could have been there. So that was my fear of asking caused everyone to miss out on whatever Ed was supposed to say that day. I know.
Well, you guys were there too. Yeah,
okay,
that should
you know
make
what we
us
had
very
to go
upset.
through to get there?
No.
So we had to play. Our son plays traveling soccer at a very high level, premier level soccer, and
I'm the
David
head coach of the
coaches.
team.
So we had a game, and we knew we were flying. We actually had to change our flight to fly out from Sacramento to change it to Oakland, fly to Oakland so we can make the soccer tournament and then fly out right away. And we get to Oakland, and the moms and I were walking the neighborhood. It's a cute little area, nice little park or whatever. And we had a rental car. My daughter was going to drive it back so we could just get on the plane and go afterwards.
She was going to take our son and our kids all the way back up to where we live, and then we were just going to hop on the plane after the game and go to you guys' summit.
So about 5 minutes into the game, a car rolls up. There's 4 guys in the car. They smash the back of our rental car, grab
And
our
while the game is going on, and the referee is yelling stop, what are you doing? And all the kids are watching this. Everybody's watching this.
Yeah. No. And Dave was like, I could have got to them, but I also don't want to lose my life.
There's nothing I could have done.
And they steal our suitcases that before.
Right in front of everyone.
Right before in front of everybody, and everyone's shooken up, and the rental car's completely damaged the back, and we have no suitcases, and our flight's about to leave like an hour and a half afterwards.
And it was like one of the last flights that night. So like
Yeah.
when we got into Vegas, that was on
It was a Friday night, or no, Saturday night.
It was-
Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
everything was closed.
Yeah.
So we got into Las Vegas. We literally had no toothbrush, no clothes.
Oh my God.
And so we're
Nothing.
just like, wow, okay, well, this is
is
real
it.
estate. Up
yeah.
and down road.
And we could have saw Ed Milet.
Yeah, you could have seen Ed Milet. I ruined it. Oh, don't worry.
Yeah.
I am convinced Ed will speak at one of these events because I
Yeah.
just
But
gotta
that,
ask
I mean,
him.
that's just the thing is like, just keep going,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Just keep going.
Yeah. Right after that, when I found out about Ed, I texted my friend. I was like, okay, fine. Will you introduce me to Ed? So I texted Ed. I'm like, hey, man, we should talk.
Yes.
So we've been texting now, and I don't know.
That's awesome.
We'll get Ed. But anyway, all right. Moving on.
So, two pivot people, two people that has changed the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
Did you say trajection?
Trajectory.
that a word?
No, I messed that.
Direction
I was like,
and
two
trajectory.
pivot
Yeah.
people.
Trajection. I actually
We
like
got
that
it.
word.
We got it. It can be both. It's a pivotal word.
Oh, guys,
I'm always gonna make
embarrassed
fun
now.
of you for trajection.
Trajectory. The trajectory of your
I
life.
think, gosh, this kind of coincides with someone who's like been probably an inspiration in my life would probably be my mother, just because I feel like I saw her put out into the universe of what she wanted to accomplish, and she would write down like her goals and put it into a little jar, and they would all come true.
Oh, that's cool.
So I feel like just knowing that when I was younger, I just realized like I am the creator of my reality, of my life. And so then it gives you power, right? Like you can do whatever you want and no one can stop you because you really create your own reality.
Yeah, I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, for me, it was my coaches in sports growing up. I had two really good coaches that, I wasn't necessarily going down the right path, and they were able to instill in me, the little things, the right values, and I carry those into my coaching these days. And I hold all my kids accountable, and I know for me as a coach, if I can inspire them or get them to go on that direction that my coach did, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
And so definitely my coaches here in Maui growing up are
amazing.
phenomenal.
Are you seeing them at all while you're here?
Yes,
You are?
yeah. I saw one of them. I actually ran into him yesterday. My son, because we're playing in the State Cup Championship on Sunday, he got to train with his team.
Oh, cool.
And so I ran into him and I gave him a hug. And, I always thank him. I always thank him for everything because he truly was definitely a person that made me who I am today, for sure.
It's amazing.
Yep.
All right, one quote that changed the direction of your life. Maybe one
Okay.
each of you each have one.
Let me hopefully I get the quote right.
All right.
'Cause I'm like, I love quotes.
Just don't say trajectory. You'll be
yeah.
So,
I think it's Ralph Waldo Emerson. At the moment of commitment, the universe will conspire to assist you. And I love that because I feel like once you're committed to what you want, like things just happen or show up in your life.
Like Ed Milet.
Ed Milet, right? Like once he's on your radar and people say like, oh, there's, once you are in real estate and you want to find a deal, like you'll find a deal.
Yeah.
Just
like
a
that.
moment of
Yeah.
staying committed and keep going.
Cool. Anyone for you?
I think for me, it's just do unto others as you do yourself. You know, I mean, I'm growing up here, the Aloha spirit. It's just you see it when you're around in the islands, and I just feel like when you do that with other people, they feel the same, and they give you that same feedback, and so that's how I've always lived my life.
The first time you came to Hawaii together, were you shocked at his language change when he got around?
I
who
tell
are
people,
you?
Yeah,
I tell
yeah.
people I can
Like, it
speak
happens
two
to every-
languages.
yeah, it happens to
I speak
every-
English and I
yeah.
speak Pidgin.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I hear that story
Yeah.
all the time for people who have one spouse that grows up here, and then they meet their spouse off the island, and then they come back together, and they're like,
Yes.
"Who are you?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, yes, 100%. Yes.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids even ask, like, what language is that?
Yeah.
You know?
What's
Is that
Dad
Hawaiian? Is
talking
that
about?
Hawaiian?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
The people here though are so incredibly
Yeah,
nice.
so good.
Driving, I've been into almost so many wrecks because people here will stop and let you out. Like they'll
so overly
wait.
kind.
Like it's like
Yeah.
and I'm not paying attention and almost slam into the back of somebody because somebody's stopping.
Yeah, it was like in the middle of the highway. Just out in the middle of the highway to let somebody out. And you're like,
Come on, be meaner.
Yeah.
Do this on the
be a
main
little
lane.
more selfish.
Yeah,
Just,
well, I always tease
Be
David because I'm like, you learned to drive on an island when there was probably like 2 roads.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
there's a no turn lane. So when you turn from like the lane, and then you just cross over the turn lane and bypass. I'm like, we don't do that. We don't, I'm still like working on that.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I almost got hit by a moped on the way over here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some moped guy just came out of a driveway, just no stop, just boom, and he just about hit me.
Oh my gosh.
As well. But then, of course, we just shotgun and
Yeah.
we drive
Yeah.
on. It was so
Yeah.
funny. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're all just shotgun and moving on. All right, next segment, past, present, future.
All right. What would you tell 20-year-old you if you could tell them anything? Any advice for your 20-year-old you?
Gosh, I was pretty mature at 20, I think.
Yeah, you were. You'd already flipped a
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Making a grand. All right, let's go to 16-year-old you.
Yeah. Pregnant. Yeah. I think just trust the process. I think just have faith it's all going to work out. So there's going to be hard moments in life, but at the end of the day, it's like trust the process.
That's awesome.
Good.
Love that.
Yeah, I would say very similar,
You're going to meet your beautiful wife and
Exactly.
right? No, I think it's keep believing in yourself, because a lot of times I feel like a lot of us, we lack the confidence to do the little things, and it's like, believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to just do it. Don't be afraid to just go up and shake that guy's hand or go up and meet him, like go do those little things. And so I feel like 20-year-old me, I wasn't like that. I didn't have the confidence to go out and do that.
Yeah.
I feel like now I'm not afraid to go talk to anybody, but I feel like 20-year-old me, if I had been like that then, I would have already started my real estate career or done other big things.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yep.
All right. What is your number one rule for living a better life today?
Number one rule, I would say detachment from basically, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as you're building like your business or looking to find success, like it's not a representation of who you are as your identity. So detaching that, because we're kind of like living and then we are trying to achieve success, but success isn't an end destination. It's actually the daily, successful moments that you have, whether it's like waking up to your spouse or just like the fact that you're even able to wake up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that a lot of times we find our identity in our work or our job or our career, what we're trying to accomplish, but it's not really who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's just communication and being able to always be able to be open and talk to everybody, and that's how you always get stuff accomplished.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the big people where was like, man, you like to talk, but at the end of the day, it's like when you communicate with anybody, you can accomplish anything, and you get questions answered, you get stuff done, and so I'm always about communication. That's I would say.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yep.
All right.
He's a
So,
great communicator.
yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Someday, you guys are going to die, unfortunately.
At the same time.
At the same time. No,
Yes.
Holding
not at
hands.
the same
Holding
time.
hands.
Holding
Yep.
hands. Yeah.
We still
Please
hold
don't be
hands
on
at
a
night
plane,
in bed
though.
sometimes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm like
Yes.
terrified of planes. I'm like, she loves to travel. I love you. I never go.
And let's say you're like a ghost at the funeral and you're hearing people talk about you. What do you want them to be saying about you?
I think for us, I guess, and or for myself, I was like, I want people to be like inspired. That like go after your dreams and dream big, and like why have self-doubt, and like life is too short to like just not go all in. I hope that, and I know that we think this, we actually have a thing called the karma jar. It's really really big.
Yeah.
So every time like we know maybe somebody did something wrong to us, but we'll go and like fix this, or take care of it, or pay this or pay that, pay it forward, whatever it is. We're like, okay, just add that to the karma jar, write him the check. This guy, he's a little short on rent. Okay, karma jar.
Yeah.
It's really, really big.
Yeah.
But just like we want people to feel like that, just respected, I guess, in the sense that like, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or that you're like the janitor. Like everybody should be respected at equal levels, and just like be a good human.
Yeah. Love that.
Beautiful.
I would say like it's I want at my funeral, I want them to say, wow, this guy left a legacy, that the way he treated people, the way he communicated, the way he was with the players he was coaching, passing down those values, passing down those important things in life. I just think that's something that I hope, like, and I know they will, because I'm gonna. That's why I coach. I'm teaching these kids things that they can't get at their homes and families that I learned here in Hawaii, and so that would be what I'd
and
like.
you never know what someone says to somebody at that right moment that could change their trajectory of their life. Projection of their life. So I don't know.
Or directory of their life, or trajectin or directory.
Direction,
Just
the
combine
path.
Okay, much better.
I love it. Coaching is one of it's one of those jobs where you don't hear it a lot, and you are impacting so many lives. And it's the coolest thing ever, where it's like, you might not know that something that you said to somebody today, 50 years down the road, they're going to remember that, and they're going to respond in a different way, and it's going to change their life and their family's lives. And it's sometimes a thankless job, but you're changing so many kids' lives.
You are.
Yeah.
It's that. A lot of times, a lot of these kids in school, they might come from a really hard, the family, they have a lot of hardship or whatever's going on in their family. But when they come to that field and I get to coach them, they let off their steam there, and then I'm able to, like, okay, this is the kind of person you need to be in life. You always look people in the eye, you always shake their hand, as strong as you can, and you always want to make a statement. You always want to make sure that they remember you, because that goes a long way.
Yeah. There was a story that I heard once, and it's not about coaching, but it's just about, like, being a good person.
Yeah.
And so I was a pastor, and there's a story that I heard about a teacher, and the teacher had taught all their lives, and there was one student that they had that they didn't really. They loved on the kid. They told him, about Jesus one day, and then just the kid grew up and they never stayed in touch. And like 40 years down the line, the person, so this teacher, the kid reached out to this teacher and said, hey, I want you to come to church today with me. And so the teacher was like, this is weird. Why am I doing this? He shows up to the church, and the kid, who's now old, gets up on stage, is actually the pastor of the church. And he brings the teacher up there. And then he has everybody in the room light a candle. And he said, you told me about Jesus this one day, and I got saved. And, like, you don't know the impact that that's had on all of these people's lives, and their families' lives and their families' lives. And it's such a cool story about just the things that you do that sometimes feel thankless.
Absolutely.
Like the legacy that you leave, you don't know about it, and it can ripple for generations.
And how to implement that in your daily life, just being, letting somebody in on the road. 'Cause what if they're, driving to, like, the hospital to, like,
you never
try to, not miss the birth of their child or something. You just never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, what's that phrase? Because I always try to do it, and then somebody put a name to it. It's like where you always argue for
The best possible
explanation. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So somebody does something to you, you're like, what's the best possible explanation of what they did? Oh, they're probably going to the hospital. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, it just reframes your whole mind. You're not angry anymore.
Yeah. And just live like that.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right, time for the wrap up, and we'll get everyone out of here. First question of the wrap up: what are you excited about in life? What's coming up?
I'm excited to just grow our real estate empire. I tell people right now it feels like a Monopoly game. Like, our life is very fulfilling, and our relationships are very intentional, what we do and how we do what we do. And I think just being able to scale it and I think pour it more into other people. Yeah. Whether it's inspire them, motivate them, hire them, create a bigger team around us.
Cool.
Awesome.
I agree. I think the opportunity that I get to inspire more people through coaching, through social media about real estate, that you can come from anything, and you can accomplish anything. You just got to take action, and you got to believe in yourself and be confident.
Love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Love that. Speaking of social media, where can we find you at? Where Facebook?
So on Instagram,
Tinder,
Chenoa and
Tinder,
David. Chenoa with a C. Chenoa and David.
Yes.
And on Facebook, it's also Chenoa and David on Facebook.
Can you spell Chenoa? Chenoa?
Chenoa. Do you know what Chenoa?
Yes.
Chenoa.
Okay, perfect.
Just like it sounds.
Yes, exactly.
And David.
That's right.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Love it.
no
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you for having us.
That's ready.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Boom. Got it.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the insights from the episode. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read your comments to make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we have. And last but not least, please head over to social media and consider friending, following, subscribing, and all that stuff to both Better Life at Better Life over on Instagram and my own personal at Beardy Brandon for more. That's Beardy with a Y at the end of it, Beard with a Y, Brandon on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. Thanks again for listening. I am honored that you would bring me along on your journey to building wealth without losing your soul. This show has been a production of the Better Life Tribe, copyright 2024. Our producer is Kevin Leahy with Podcast Point Man. Our videographer and all-around talented video guy, Carson Smith. My co-host is the amazing Cam Cathcart with DealFlowRealEstate.com. And finally, this show has been all about living a better life. But if you want my spiritual answer to what it takes to live not only a better life, but the best life, head over to abetterlife.com/best life. I got a 13-minute special video for you there. For the Better Life Tribe, my name is Brandon Turner, signing off.